Hey, number 54, Abuelo and the Nieto. This is the Abuelo over there in New York. We have the Nieto. We talk Miami sports. We have a lot of segments going on. We'll be talking about the Dolphins, 0-3 after the loss to the Bills Thursday night. Looking forward to that Gators Hurricanes game coming up Saturday evening. Lionel Messi extension with Inter Miami, and that's securing the future. I think of the franchise opening up a stadium next season. So this is number 54, right? Right, Tyler?
That's right, 54, named after probably the first one of the first Miami stars that I got to witness, up close and personal towards the end of his career. So, in case anybody doesn't remember, who wore 54 for the Miami Dolphins during those
I think
2000s?
I think a lot of people remember, and let's remind people also of something very important, that Balado Tires presents Abuelo and the Nieto with two locations here in Miami, 63 years established in Miami, Florida. Balado Tires. So Tyler, number 54 is Zach Thomas, and Zach Thomas played with the Dolphins from 96 to 2007, Hall of Famer, a leading tackler in the history of the team, combined tackles over 1,700 tackles. That is a lot of tackles, Tyler. And seven-time Pro Bowler, Mr. Zach Thomas, number 54.
That's right. So first, I think we'll try to talk about the positive things before talking about the Dolphins and the Bills. So Hurricanes versus Gators. This is a well known rivalry, one of the richest rivalries in college sports for sure. Florida's gotten off to a rough start this season. Their offense is just completely stagnant. Lost to USF, who they didn't just lose to USF. It was a terrible showing offensively that game, and then Miami went ahead and just mopped the floor with USF. So it was a little interesting to me to see the spread of that game, whereas I would expected Miami to have been a little bit more of a favorite. But what are you expecting this game? Do you think kind of the rivalry will make it close no matter what? Because you kind of see games like that where one team is much better than the other, like Michigan, Ohio State some years. But at the end of the day, it's a rivalry. Those teams always play well against each other. Or do you expect it to be a bit of a blowout?
I think it's going to be a very competitive game, taking into consideration that the Gators limited LSU to 316 yards. This is a pretty good defense. I think it's going to keep them in the game, and I believe that the key for the Gators will have to be Ladway, their quarterback. He's got to be more productive, and he's got to stop turning the ball over. Tyler, five ints in that loss to LSU. You look at the yardage, they moved the ball better than LSU did, but then they end up getting beat because they are turning the ball over. And then the prior game to versus South Florida, the penalties hurt them quite a bit. Also, they were the better team throughout the game, but at the end they get beat. So I think it's a little bit of coaching. Is also the problems with the quarterback. The production is the guy that's got talent, but he's got a, you know, those number of turnovers have to be a lot lower. You're not gonna win a game if you turn the ball over four or five times at any level. At the same time, I think Miami definitely has got to be the favorite. They're playing a very high level in all the aspects of the game. We're talking the three phases of the game. That defense is completely different. That backfield is different. And then you got two beasts coming out of the edges, Ruben Bain Jr., we're going to be talking about him later on with a new segment that we're doing, basically looking at the new generation of great Miami athletes, and we're going to be featuring him later in the podcast. And this is a guy that is, maybe one of the top three or four defenders in college football right now. And this is a team that really, you look at them, at least on paper, they don't have any weaknesses, and they have shown it on the field. Carson Beck, I know that it's not your favorite quarterback, Tyler, but he's been playing pretty well up to now. So let's see how he performs. And then having Jojo Trader back and Lau, I think it helps Miami offensively, even though they haven't really missed them in the last couple of games. They have been injured. So I still like Miami definitely in the game. Very well balanced offense, Tyler. That's very important also. And that protection of the quarterback and that offensive line. Offensive line for Miami is key, and in my opinion, right now, is one of the two or three best offensive lines in the country. So I see Miami taking care of business, but it should be a competitive and very interesting game.
Yeah, and you can't help but wonder how much better that defense would have been just, with having Ruben Bain healthy last year. Because, him starting his collegiate career was a freshman All American, just, seemed like he was on path to being a star, but he was kind of slowed down a little bit towards that middle part of his college career. But now, like you said, I mean, seems like he's on path to being a first round pick. And with Florida's specific offense, they kind of get caught up in a lot of play actions, long running plays, a lot of guys in motion, and I mean Bane's going to affect that at the end of the day. This isn't an offense that's like the Miami Dolphins offense that gets the ball out quick. A lot of these plays are long and drawn out, and when you have some just mean, tough, fast edge rushers coming at you, that's going to make life, very, very difficult. So I expect this to not be the blowout in terms of the kind of the skill differential between these teams, but I don't expect it to be a very close game though. I think Miami will keep control throughout the majority of it. And at the end of the day, I don't root on anybody's downfall. So if Carson Beck's playing good football, I'm happy for him. I'm not going to be one of those people that sits by and tries to come up with reasons and stuff. Let's remember he's also my age, so he's a very experienced quarterback. He's been around the block. He kind of that the NFL is a different story, but he's playing well. So not much to be said about that.
So we applaud Carson Beck at this time. Tyler, this podcast is presented by Balado Tires, and if you need tires, Balado Tires is the answer. 27th Avenue, Northwest 16th Street in Miami, also Southwest 8th Street and 67th Avenue. They also have brake services. So if you need tires, this is a family that has been in the business a very long time. They have all the top Nash brands. So Balado Tires.
That's
We
right.
we got to talk Dolphins, Tyler. We
We
got to talk
do.
Dolphins. People are waiting for us.
I tried to kind of procrastinate it just because I don't know if my heart has healed from that last night. Just I mean a lot of encouraging signs from the team. I hate to be the person that sugarcoats and kind of tries to make good out of a bad story, but at the end of the day, it's the truth. They played well against a Super Bowl contender. And just before you get into it, I wanted to kind of break down that last play. And Tua hasn't been great this year, I'll say that. But that specific play, I don't put that blame on him. You look at just to kind of draw a picture. They had two receivers on the right side, close to the line of scrimmage. Had kind of condensed splits. People are saying that Tua stared down that throw. That corner was in cover three, which means his job was to drop back. So if Tua looks in that, sees the corners dropping back, that's Waddle's man. He's going to throw the ball. If Tua doesn't look and the corner's in cover two, which means his job is to stay there, Tua's not going to look. He throws the ball, that corner's going to pick it and score. The person who was at fault on that play was the inside receiver inside of Waddle, because his job on that route is to get in that linebacker's way before running his route. If he froze that linebacker for even half a second, that would have been a complete pass. So I think before we make these criticisms, we kind of need to watch these plays a couple of times, maybe slow things down, because I mean I almost put his to his fault at 0% there. And I've been, openly critical of him when it's needed, but that's not one of the plays to be critical about.
So in that play, to be sure, what you're saying is that basically Waddle didn't take care of business, right? Isn't that what you're saying?
No, the guy who was inside of Waddle. So
Okay.
basically, they were running straight at the same time, and that guy's job was to get in the way of the man who intercepted the ball. But instead of getting in his way and running inside, he just ran straight and ran his route. So he was supposed to kind of serve as a block.
Take the linebacker away. He had to take the linebacker away from the play.
Exactly, and he did.
Yeah, and he did not do that, and that's the consequence. An intersection that was very important. There's two key plays in the game, Tyler, that affect Miami, and they make the difference in the game, in my opinion. Of course, they missed a field goal of Buffalo, and that also has to do with it prior to all of that. But the penalty on Sealer, which is not playing at the level that he's supposed to play, by the way, after really getting paid well now in the offseason. Sealer's mistake on the roughing the punter definitely is a key play in the game. You were gonna stop the Bills. They want to have to give the ball up, and they end up moving the ball and putting points on the board. So that is key. And of course, the INT of Tua at the end of the game. Those are the two key plays. One of those goes Miami way. And maybe they can win the game or make it more interesting. Something that is got to be said is that Buffalo is definitely the better team. So the better team should win most of the time. So that is number one. And they're clearly the best team. Now, Miami, offensively in particular, and defensively in the second half, played better than they have played all season. Tua was better, and the receivers, Waddle and Hill were good. And especially, Tyler, the offensive line, because there's a lot of question marks about the right side of the offensive line. They protected Tua. Tua has no excuses as far as protection is concerned. And they were able to run the ball with Gordon and a chance for 116 yards. So they have major production running the ball. Now, still, defensively, you're not playing up to the level that you're supposed to play. You allowed 31 points. They allowed over 150 yards rushing. And Allen had most of the time he had ample time to throw his passes. They were not able to put enough pressure on him. So the defense, and especially that defensive line, Tyler, is not playing at the level that they're supposed to. And that was supposed to be one of the strengths of the team. The linebackers are also getting beat left and right, especially with the running backs coming out of the backfield, giving them a lot of problems. And Cook was a key player in that game. Cook had a tremendous game, over 100 yards, and he caused a lot of damage to Miami's defense. Also, I think Tua, Tyler, and you can maybe talk a little bit about this. Tua is, getting into a situation that, sometimes he get the pressure and he starts, instead of moving left or right, he moves backwards. He's, they're telling him not to run. I think that's something that is being said. And I understand it. They want to keep him healthy. But, when you have a guy not necessarily playing scared, but playing very carefully at any position, that is a negative towards that team. And I think that's the situation with Tua. And he has regressed in the last season. Also, you know, some of the things that are working that were working this game, they got to keep using them. And one of those plays, they're taking away the middle of the field. So use the numbers more with comebackers, with down and outs, and those did work for them. And maybe they had to use them a little more, even in this particular game. Hill and Waddle were successful with those down and outs and comebackers on the numbers. They're taking away the middle of the field, and it's not only Buffalo. Everything is doing it, and they're taking away your vertical game. Not just have a chance release on the right or the left lateral passes, basically at the line of scrimmage. Try to attack a little more, but do it on the numbers, and that worked for them, quite a bit in this game. Now, and finish it from my perspective now regarding this game and what's coming up. They have two games that are winnable, and they have to win those two games if they are thinking of doing really anything very positive this season. They got to take care of the Jets at home, and then they got to take care of Carolina on the road. If not, it gets very, very complicated.
Yeah, I agree, and kind of, you know, I'll address the most recent thing that you said first. Those out routes, those routes going towards the sideline. It's interesting because I know Mike McDaniel knows a lot about football. We're not educating him about
He
anything.
knows he knows a lot more than us, Tyler.
Yes, he does. He done, and I'm very arrogant about my football knowledge, but he knows more than me. I'll admit that. So it's not like we're teaching him about anything, but it's almost like a kind of a stubbornness or an unwillingness to adapt at certain situations because, like you said, they're running cover three. Those cornerbacks. I mean, if you have Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, two of the fastest men in this country, lined up on the field at the same time. You're running cover three, your cornerbacks are sprinting backwards as soon as that ball is snapped. So these outs are going to be open, these hitches are going to be open, and it's almost like an insistence of just trying to push it. And that kind of then translates into this the first thing that you said of Tua running backwards and kind of panicking in the face of pressure. I again, it sounds like I'm continuing to make excuses for the guy, but that offense. Remember how I mentioned that Florida's offense is very drawn out. It takes some long developing plays. Miami's is the opposite. I mean, he gets the ball out quicker than anybody ever has in NFL history. It's a lot of, unless they're throwing the ball deep, it's 1 2 second throws. That's a very positive thing, and it's a good way to get off defenses tired, a good way to move the ball quickly. But on the contrary, that also, if those guys aren't open, if they're clogging the middle of the field, there's nothing else to develop from there. So that's what he does. He runs back and he throws the ball away or he dumps it off to Achan because there is no secondary or third option besides those shorter routes. There is nobody where he can roll out to the sideline and this guy's running an out. I can go throw the ball to him or run to the right. This guy's running a drag across the field to the sideline. There's nobody. It's called secondary routes and reroutes, and that just he just doesn't have those options based on the offense that they're running. So it comes with the good and it comes with the bad, but unfortunately, we do see the bad there. So I guess we can call for a little bit more diversity in the play calling. I agree with the general theme of this team's play calling. They're suiting their strengths well, but it's getting a little bit too one dimensional. I guess is the issue.
Tyler, we have Lionel Messi, probably with the Inter Miami now for at least 2 more seasons. It's not official yet, but they say that they have basically an agreement. They're talking about some minor details, and it will be 2 years, and most likely an auction for Messi for 2028. Uh, and then it depends, he'll be 40 years old. It all depends how he's doing at that time, whether he takes that auction or not. But I think this is great, very positive for soccer in the US, not only Inter Miami. This is beneficial to everyone. And as far as the contract is concerned, the numbers, we don't have the numbers yet, but he's making $150 million around that figure right now in that 2.5 year contract that he's got. So you got to figure that's going to be around $175 million for Lionel Messi. And he's played at a very high level for Inter Miami, 62 goals already. He's the career leader, and he's got 28 goals this season. They got about 7 games remaining in the season. So I think it's great. You're opening up a new stadium near the airport starting next season. So a great news for Inter Miami and for the MLS.